Hello, I'm Steve Shade with MoFi Electronics. Today we're at HiFi Klubben in Denmark. Come on in, I'll show you why MoFi Electronics are very special products. Yeah? Come on in. So Mobile Fidelity Electronics stems from Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab, our remastering studio. This started back in 1977, remastering some iconic recordings. For example, like this latest one from Dire Straits, On Every Street. We have our own remastering studio in Sebastopol, California, and that's a bit unique. Most electronics companies don't come from a record label, if you will. But for us, it starts with the music. We're passionate about music. And so the mastering label, the mastering studio, is what we're trying to bring to a customer's home with our electronic products. In fact, that's the whole reason for being for MoFi Electronics, is to develop products that will take that sound from the original master recording that we hear at the mastering studio in California to the customer's ears. So from the master to your ears is MoFi Electronics. One of the products we've developed recently is the Sourcepoint speakers. We've been fortunate to work with Andrew Jones. We have a very efficient front baffle where the leading edge of the driver is out beyond the frame of the speaker. So any noise or distortion that we would have on the surface of the facet or the front of the speaker is canceled out. The Sourcepoint speakers are unique because they offer a concentric driver. Is actually a driver where the tweeter or the high frequency production is in the middle of the mid-range in the woofer. So one driver with one or two magnet structures that fall in line, and then in the center of the driver is where the high frequencies come from.
So why is that better than a normal construction where you have a driver and then a normal tweeter?
And that's because when we speak, we're very much speaking with one voice, and that's very coherent. Our ears are used to listening to one voice, or maybe a chorus of voices. In this case, a concentric driver works very similar to the way we speak. So at one point is where the sound comes from, which means it's very coherent from low frequencies all the way through to the highest frequencies. Very dynamic, very big sounding. They throw a huge sound stage. They'll fill an entire room. And of course, fuller and richer at lower volumes when you get to the Sourcepoint 10. It's a pretty incredible product. I'm using the Sourcepoint 8 at my house due to the size of my room being a little smaller. This is very unique because it has a grounding, a feet system that helps eliminate any vibrations. If you've ever walked past a turntable in an older house and had the needle bounce, it's something we address with the feet of the MoFi Electronics turntables. So it allows us to put our turntables pretty much anywhere. One of the other unique aspects is it has a 10-inch tone arm, which means the pivot point to the stylus is exactly 10 inches. And that means that any noise from the pivot point, any small vibration from the pivot point is just further away from the stylus, giving us a better sound. The most common turntable or tone arm length is 9 inches. So this is a little bit bigger physically, but it still maintains the rigidity of the tone arm, but allows us to, like I said, move that pivot point a little further away for clearer, cleaner sound. And then we also have our entry-level studio deck, the same very high performance of the Ultra Deck down to a more affordable price point. And one of the unique aspects of both these turntables is the Delrin platter. And actually all of the material of this platter is called Delrin. And Delrin is unique because it has the same impedance as vinyl. So therefore it makes a perfect partner for the vinyl itself without using any turntable mat or anything like that. And that also has our 10-inch tone arm. And this is our studio tracker, which is our starting moving magnet cartridge. And we work with Audio-Technica to develop the engine of the cartridge. In this case, it's a very unique design because the cartridge itself has a twin, what we call a V-twin engine, which mimics the engine on the cutter head at the mastering studio. So Neumann makes a cutting head that actually cuts the vinyl and lays down the tracks of on the record. And Audio-Technica created this same type of engine to use in a playback cartridge. And this gives us a very unique, very dynamic, very open and articulate sound for a very modest price. The Studio Tracker is our most affordable cartridge, and it comes pre-mounted on a studio deck.
So the primary difference between this one and this one?
Yeah, so you'll notice the Ultra Deck has a much thicker platter. It also has 3 aluminum panels on the top, which are constrained layer damped, which gives us a much deader. Yeah, you'll notice that we have a much more inert body, which it will just introduce less distortion. The feedback we get from customers with the Ultra Deck and with the Studio Deck is how quiet they are. So the music, when you're listening to music, the space between the notes is just quieter. So everything comes out of a blacker background, which is a lot more fun if you're enjoying your favorite music. Well, here we have the new Master Deck. One of the unique things about this turntable is the sophistication of the platter and how the platter only turns on one point of inertia, which means it's very easy to turn and very smooth in its operation. And then his tone arm is unique because it operates on 2 different planes. So on the horizontal plane, it has a unipivot, and on the vertical plane, it has a gimbal bearing. So it actually sits right down in the groove very nicely for a turntable of this performance level. One of our most successful products to sell along with the turntables has been this studio phono. Most phono stages at these entry-level price points can be kind of sterile sounding and thin sounding. This one has a lot of body, is really open sounding and very easy to use as it just sits next to the turntable on the shelf. We can then introduce you to a higher performing phono stage. And the Master Phono puts all of the noisier parts, for example, the power supply, all the LEDs, the meter functionality, all at the front. And then there's an air gap with 3 copper tubes for connectivity back to the signal path portion. It's very important that the signal path portion, once again, doesn't have any noise or distortion in that signal path. So by isolating it, we actually can create a 2-box phono stage, which is what the reference phono stages usually are in the audiophile world, in one chassis.
But you said before that this is a quite good ride amplifier.
Yeah, so
right?
our basic...
What is the sound difference between?
Yeah, well, they're both beautiful sounding, but you would notice the Master Phono is way more refined, way more elegant. It's going to have a much lower noise floor than the Studio Phono. And one of the reasons we sell hundreds of Studio Phonos every month is because this is very affordable. So, yeah, if you by chance could listen to one product, I'd recommend finding your nearest HiFi Klubben and listening to the new Sourcepoint 10. This is a very passionate, very emotional, very dynamic loudspeaker. It's been received very, very well in the marketplace. So hopefully you'll be able to come and listen to all of our products at HiFi Klubben, but maybe the Sourcepoint 10 would be a great place to start. Thank you for your time.